The dream begins. The night was quiet in Keanu Reeves's home, a silence so deep it almost hummed in the air. He had spent the day like many others, greeting strangers with kindness, riding his motorcycle through the city, helping a homeless man on the corner without expecting thanks, but that night something unusual stirred in his heart. He lay down, closed his eyes, and was pulled into a dream that felt more real than anything he had ever known. In the dream, he stood on a wide-open plain, under a sky so clear it glowed with stars. The air was soft but heavy, as if it carried a weight, a presence, and then he saw a figure walking toward him dressed in simple white. The figure's eyes were full of light, gentle yet powerful. Keanu felt his knees weaken. He whispered without thinking, "Jesus," and the figure nodded slowly, a warmth spreading across Keanu's chest as if the air itself was hugging him. But the peace was not all that came, because Jesus' voice, calm and steady, carried both love and warning. You walk with kindness, you live with humility, but the world around you grows darker. You must be ready, not only for yourself but for those who look to you. Danger comes, dressed as comfort, temptation comes dressed as wisdom. You must hold fast to what is true. Keanu's heart raced. He wanted to speak, to ask what this danger was, but his voice failed him. He tried to step closer, yet the plain seemed to stretch further. Jesus raised a hand and the stars brightened until they burned like fire across the sky. Listen, my son, you will face a moment soon. It will test everything you believe about love, respect, and resilience. Do not let fear guide you, let kindness be your shield. Suddenly the light burst around him. Keanu felt his chest tighten as if pulled between worlds. When he opened his eyes, he was in his bed again, sweat covering his face, breath heavy as though he had run miles. He sat up. The night air through his window was cool, but it did not calm him. The dream was not fading like dreams usually did. It stayed, sharp and heavy, carved into his mind. He walked into the kitchen and poured himself water, his hands shaking slightly. He tried to convince himself it was only a dream, but deep down he knew. He had seen something beyond himself, something he could not ignore. The warning echoed in his head. Danger comes dressed as comfort. The next morning, Keanu carried the memory into his day, on set, while fans gathered. While cameras rolled, he smiled, he laughed, but his heart was restless. Each face he passed, each hand he shook, he wondered if this was the moment Jesus had spoken of. He noticed things he had never noticed before. The false smiles of some, the exhaustion behind others' eyes, the small cruelties people brushed aside. He felt everything deeper, sharper, more real. That evening as he left the studio, a man approached him on the street, well-dressed, polite, carrying a warm smile. The man spoke of an opportunity, a partnership that could expand Keanu's influence, a project that promised comfort, wealth, and recognition on a scale beyond anything he had known. His words were smooth, his tone convincing, and for a moment Keanu felt himself pulled toward the offer. It sounded good, almost too good. Then the words of the dream rang again. Danger comes dressed as comfort. He paused. He looked closer at the man. Something in his eyes seemed hollow. Something beneath the polished words did not feel right. Keanu politely stepped back, thanked him, but said he would not be part of it. The man's smile faltered just slightly. A flicker of coldness flashed. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Keanu stood there, shaken, his breath uneven. Was that the test Jesus had warned him of? Or was it only the beginning? The night sky above seemed darker than usual, and Keanu felt a chill run through his bones. He walked home slowly, every step heavy, his mind circling the dream and the warning, and as he entered his home again, he realized something. This was no simple dream. It was the start of a journey that would pull him through fear, through doubt, and through choices that would test not only his heart but his soul. The weight of the warning, the morning after the strange encounter on the street, Keanu Reeves woke with a heaviness in his chest. The dream of Jesus still burned in his memory like a fire that would not die. He sat at his kitchen table staring at a cup of coffee. Untouched, the words repeated in his head again and again. Danger comes dressed as comfort. Temptation comes dressed as wisdom. Keanu thought about the man he had met the night before. The perfect smile, the polished words, the sudden flicker of coldness. It all made sense now. But the unease inside, him only grew stronger if that man was only the beginning. Then what else was coming? Later that day, on the movie set, Keanu tried to focus on his work, but he felt distracted. Between takes, he wandered to the edge of the lot, his eyes scanning faces, his ears catching pieces of conversation. Every small detail felt like a clue, as if the dream had opened his eyes to a deeper layer of reality. A crew member, young and tired, accidentally spilled water near the lights. One of the other workers snapped at him harshly. Keanu walked over, put his hand on the young man's shoulder, and said softly, "It's okay. Mistakes happen. Let's clean it up together." The young man's eyes filled with gratitude, and for a brief moment, Keanu felt the warmth of kindness ease the heavy weight in his chest. But the peace was short-lived when he returned to his trailer. A letter was waiting for him. It was plain white with no name. Inside was a single sentence written in dark ink. "The dream was not only for you." Keanu froze, his hand trembling. As he held the note, how could anyone know about his dream? He had told no one, not a single soul. His thoughts spun. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe someone was playing a trick. But deep down he knew better. This was connected. This was part of the warning. He folded the letter slowly and placed it in his jacket pocket. He needed time to think. That night, Keanu decided to take a long motorcycle ride. The hum of the engine usually cleared his mind, but this time the road felt strange. The city lights seemed dimmer, the air heavier. He rode until he reached the edge of the city where the stars shone brighter. He stopped, removed his helmet, and looked up at the night sky. "What do I do?" he whispered. "How do I know who to trust?" Silence answered him, but inside his heart he felt a quiet pull, a sense that he was not alone. When he returned home, the lights of his house flickered as he opened the door. He stepped inside cautiously. Everything looked normal. But on his table lay another envelope, this one sealed with a red mark. He opened it carefully. The message was longer this time. "Your kindness makes you strong, but it also makes you a target. The test will not be obvious. It will come from someone you least expect." Keanu sat down slowly, his mind racing. Someone knew his dream. Someone was warning him, or maybe luring him. And the thought that betrayal could come from someone close to him cut deeper than anything else. He had lived a life of humility and care, but he also knew the pain of loss and broken trust. The next day, a close friend invited Keanu to join a private gathering, a small dinner with people from the industry. He agreed, though his heart was uneasy. The dinner was warm at first. Laughter and stories filled the room. But as the night went on, Keanu noticed whispers at the far end of the table. He noticed how one man, someone he thought he knew well, kept glancing at him with an expression too sharp, too calculating. And then came the question, spoken casually but heavy with hidden weight. "Keanu, don't you ever think your kindness holds you back? That you could have more power if you stopped giving so much away?" The room grew quiet, all eyes on him. The words hung in the air like a trap. Keanu's heart pounded. Was this the test Jesus had spoken of? Was this the danger dressed as wisdom? He took a deep breath, looked around the table, and answered softly but firmly, "Power without kindness is nothing. If I must choose, I will choose kindness every time." The silence stretched. Then the conversation shifted. Laughter returned, but Keanu knew something had changed. He had passed one test, but many more waited ahead. That night, as he walked home under the pale moon, he whispered again to the sky, "I will not let fear guide me. I will hold fast." Yet even as he spoke the words, he felt the shadows around him growing thicker. The real battle had only just begun. The shadow grows. The following morning, Keanu Reeves woke with a feeling he could not shake. The dream, the letters, the strange question at the dinner table. Everything seemed to weave together into a thread of warning. He stood at the window of his quiet home watching the sunrise, but instead of peace he felt a weight, as if the light itself was fighting through a hidden darkness. He tried to distract himself with routine. He watered the small plants on his balcony, made tea, even took time to greet his neighbors with a gentle smile, but his heart stayed restless. When he checked his phone, he saw dozens of new messages, but one stood out. It was from an unknown number. The text read, "Do not forget. What you saw in your dream will soon unfold. Be ready." Keanu froze, staring at the glowing screen. How could someone know, he whispered to himself. Is this guidance or is it a trap? Later that day he went to the film studio. The set was crowded, people rushing with scripts, costumes, and cameras. Yet for Keanu, everything felt distant. His eyes kept catching small things like a grip worker looking unusually nervous or a producer whispering too intensely on the phone. It was as if his senses had sharpened since the dream, like he could see the hidden tension in the air. At lunch, a young assistant approached him, shy and hesitant. "Mr. Reeves," she said softly, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but something about you makes me feel safe. Last night I had a strange dream too. I saw a man in white telling me to speak the truth, even if it cost me everything." Keanu's breath caught. The words sent a shiver down his spine. Was it possible? Was this the meaning of the letter? The dream was not only for you. He looked at her with calm eyes. "Thank you for telling me," he said. "Never ignore what feels real in your heart." She smiled faintly, her hands still shaking, before walking away. That evening, Keanu returned home. But as he stepped inside, he noticed the air felt different, heavier. He checked each room. Everything seemed normal until he reached his study. On his desk lay another envelope, this one larger. When he opened it, he found not words, but photographs, images of himself walking, images of himself eating, images of himself asleep in his own home. Someone had been watching him. Keanu's chest tightened. The photographs were not just invasion, they were a message. He was being followed, maybe tested, maybe threatened. His thoughts raced back to Jesus' words. "You must hold fast to what is true." He sat in the chair, staring at the photos, his heart pounding. That night, sleep did not come easily. When it finally did, he slipped into another dream. Again he found himself on the plain under the stars. Jesus stood before him, the same calm eyes, the same steady voice. "You are not alone. The darkness will try to frighten you, to make you doubt yourself. But remember, fear is their weapon, not yours. What makes you strong is what they cannot steal. Your kindness, your humility, your resilience." Keanu wanted to ask, "Who is watching me? What do they want?" But before he could, the stars above cracked like glass and he woke with a start, sweat dripping down his face. The next morning, he decided to visit an old friend, a musician who lived quietly outside the city, someone Keanu trusted deeply. They sat together on a wooden porch, guitars in their hands, the music filling the air with peace. But even there, far from cameras and lights, Keanu felt the shadow. He told his friend only a little. Enough. To share his unease, his friend nodded slowly and said, "Sometimes the world chooses people to carry more than others. Maybe this is your cross, but remember, the darker the shadow, the brighter the light that creates it." Those words sank into Keanu's heart, giving him strength. When he returned home that night, the city lights glowing in the distance, he found his front door unlocked, his pulse quickened. Inside, nothing was stolen, but on the floor lay a small piece of paper, handwritten in messy letters. "The test is closer than you think. It will not come from strangers, but from those near to you." Keanu stood frozen in the doorway, his breath uneven, his mind racing. Who could it be? Who among the people he cared for could betray him? The weight of the warning had grown heavier, and deep inside he knew. The true test was moving closer, step by step, betrayal in the light. The night felt long and heavy. Keanu Reeves barely slept. His mind circled the photographs, the letters, and the last chilling note. "It will not come from strangers, but from those near to you." He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering who he could trust, wondering if every smile around him was hiding something darker. In the morning, he forced himself to carry on as usual. He walked to a small cafe where he often went unnoticed, ordering his simple coffee and sitting quietly in the corner. But today he felt watched. Two men sat by the window whispering. A woman at the counter looked over too many times. He tried to calm his thoughts, but the weight of suspicion pressed harder with every passing minute. When he left the cafe, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an old friend in the industry, someone he had known for over 20 years. "Let's meet tonight. I need to talk to you about something important." Keanu felt relief at first. Maybe this was the friend he could confide in. Maybe this was the ally he needed in such uncertain times. That evening they met at a quiet restaurant tucked away on a dim street. The atmosphere was warm, the lights soft, the music low. Keanu listened as his friend spoke, his tone calm. Almost too calm. "Keanu, you've been holding yourself back for too long. You're respected, admired, but you could be more. I've been approached with an opportunity, something powerful, something global. They want you to be the face of it, but you must agree without hesitation." Keanu's heart slowed. The words carried the same promise of comfort, the same temptation disguised as wisdom. He thought of Jesus' warning. He thought of the notes. His friend leaned closer. "Don't think about it too much. Just say yes. Trust me." Keanu looked into his friend's eyes he had trusted for years. But tonight he saw something different, a flicker of greed, a shadow of hunger. It hurt him deeply, like a blade cutting through his chest. Betrayal was always sharpest. When it came from someone close, he leaned back, took a deep breath and said softly, "My answer is no." The friend's smile faded. His voice turned cold. "You don't understand what you're refusing. They chose you. But if you turn away, they won't stop. They'll make you regret it." Keanu stood, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "Power without truth is poison. I will not drink it." Then he walked out, leaving the restaurant, his chest heavy with sorrow. As he stepped into the street, the night air hit him hard. He felt alone. More than ever, he had faced betrayal, and the reality of it left a scar. Yet even in the pain, he remembered the dream. "Let kindness be your shield." He whispered the words to himself, clinging to them like a lifeline. The following days grew stranger. People he had trusted began to distance themselves. Calls unanswered, invitations canceled, small rumors, spreading quietly about him in circles he had never expected. It was as if a hidden hand was turning others against him. One night as he walked home, he noticed someone following him. Their steps soft but steady. He turned a corner, then suddenly stopped, facing the shadowed figure. It was the young assistant from the set, the same one who had confessed her dream, her eyes wide with fear. "Mr. Reeves," she whispered. "They know you refused. They are watching every move you make. They even know about me. I don't feel safe." Keanu placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone," he said quietly. "Whatever this is, we'll face it with truth." Her eyes filled with tears, but also with relief. That night, Keanu sat alone in his room, the city lights flickering outside his window. He felt the full weight of the battle pressing in, betrayal, threats, fear, all circling closer. Yet inside he also felt something unbreakable rising, the strength that came not from power or wealth, but from humility, kindness, and resilience. He whispered into the silence of his room, "Whatever test comes, I will not let fear win." And though his heart was heavy, he felt a spark of light burn stronger within. But even as he closed his eyes, a thought lingered. If betrayal had already come from one friend, how many more would follow? And how deep would this shadow reach before the truth was revealed? The storm within, the days that followed, felt heavier than stone. Keanu Reeves moved through the world as if every step echoed with warning. He could not ignore the betrayal he had faced, the trusted friend who had tried to lure him into darkness. Yet deeper than the hurt was the growing awareness that this was not over. The battle was only moving closer. One morning he found another letter slipped under his door during the night. The handwriting was sharp and urgent. "You are stronger than you think, but they are closing in. When the storm breaks, you must decide who you are willing to lose." Keanu read the words over and over, his chest tightening. The letters were no longer just warnings. They were shaping his choices, forcing him to prepare for something he could not yet see. He carried the letter with him to the set, tucked inside his jacket while cameras flashed and actors moved through their roles. Keanu felt disconnected, like the world around him was a stage inside a larger stage. He smiled, he spoke his lines, but inside he was watching, waiting, sensing the storm. During a break, the young assistant approached him again. her hands trembling. "They came to me," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "They said I should stay away from you, that you are dangerous, but I don't believe them. I feel something good in you, something real." Keanu placed a steady hand over hers. "Truth is never dangerous, lies are. Stay close to the truth and you will not be alone." That night, unable to sleep, Keanu rode his motorcycle to the edge of the city again. The road's empty, the stars hidden behind thick clouds. He stopped at a quiet overlook, staring at the distant lights. He felt both small and heavy, and then, like before, the dream returned. He was on the plain again, but this time the stars were gone. The sky above was swirling with storm clouds. Lightning cracked across the horizon. Jesus stood before him, his eyes calm though the storm raged. "The time is near," he said. "You will be tempted again, but this time not with comfort, this time with fear. They will try to break your spirit, to silence your kindness, but remember, light shines brightest when the storm is darkest. Do not run from it." Keanu tried to step closer, rain from the dream storm soaking his skin. "What if I am not strong enough?" he asked, his voice trembling. Jesus looked at him with a gaze so deep it felt like fire. "Strength is not never falling, strength is rising every time you do, and you, my son, you will rise." He woke with tears on his face, the sound of thunder outside his window echoing the dream. The storm in the sky had become the storm in his heart. The next evening, the storm broke both outside and within. Heavy rain poured over the city as Keanu left the studio. The streets, shining with water, he sensed movement behind him, shadows slipping through the rain. He turned sharply but saw no one. His instincts screamed. He walked faster, his heart pounding. When he reached his home, the door was ajar. He stepped inside. Carefully, the air tense. In the middle of the room sat another envelope wet from the rain. Inside was a single line. "This is your last chance. Choose fear or be broken." Keanu sank into a chair, the paper trembling in his hand. He closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I will not choose fear, I will not." Yet even as he said the words, he felt the darkness pressing harder, louder, stronger. He called his musician friend, the one who had spoken of shadows and light. They met late into the night, guitars resting by their sides. Keanu finally let his guard fall, sharing every detail. The dreams, the betrayal, the letters, the threats. His friend listened quietly, then said, "Sometimes storms come not to destroy us, but to reveal the roots of what cannot be moved. Maybe this storm is here to show you the depth of who you are." Those words stayed with him as he rode home through the storm, the rain soaking him completely, the city lights blurred by water and tears. He whispered into the roaring wind, "Let it come. I will not run. I will not bow." And in that moment, despite the fear, Keanu felt something rise inside him. Not the absence of fear, but a fire stronger than fear, a fire that whispered of resilience. Yet he knew the storm had only begun to reveal its true face. The darkest test was still waiting in the shadows of tomorrow. The final test, the storm outside had passed, but the storm inside Keanu Reeves still raged. The warnings, the betrayals, the shadows that followed him through the streets, they had all led him here, to this moment, a quiet night when the world felt like it was holding its breath. He sat alone in his home, staring at the letters spread out across his table. Each one a piece of a puzzle he still could not fully see. The final note echoed in his mind, "Choose fear or be broken." He whispered the words slowly, as if tasting them, then shook his head. "I will not choose fear." Suddenly his phone buzzed. It was the young assistant, her voice trembling through the line. "Mr. Reeves, please, I need help. They found me." Her words cracked with terror. "They said if I don't betray you, they'll hurt my family." Keanu's chest tightened. The final test had arrived, not through comfort, not through betrayal, but through fear. He felt the trap closing. If he told her to resist, her family might suffer. If he told her to obey them, he would betray himself. He closed his eyes, the weight of two worlds pressing down on him. Then he remembered the dream, Jesus' calm voice in the storm. "Strength is not never falling. Strength is rising every time you do," he whispered to himself. Light shines brightest when the storm is darkest. He spoke softly into the phone. Listen to me, you are not alone. They want you to believe fear has already won, but it hasn't. Kindness is stronger than their threats. Truth is stronger than their lies. Stay with me. We will face this. Together. There was silence, then a broken sob. Thank you, she whispered. I'll stand with you. The next day was heavy with tension. Word spread in hidden places that Keanu had refused again. People whispered. Some admired his courage. Others warned he was foolish, but he walked with steady steps. His eyes calm, though his heart carried fire. That evening, as the sun set, he walked through the city streets, the same ones where shadows had followed him, the same ones where betrayal had touched him. Now he walked not in fear, but in quiet strength. People looked at him and felt something shift, a reminder that resilience was possible, that humility was power. When he returned home, another letter waited for him, but this one was different. It held no threat, only a single line. The storm has passed, not because it ended, but because you stood. Keanu sat down slowly, the words sinking deep. He looked out the window at the calm night sky, and for the first time in many days he felt peace. That night he dreamed again. The plain stretched before him, but this time the stars shone bright. Jesus stood near, his eyes warm. You faced the test, he said. You did not choose fear, and because of that you gave strength to others, remember. Every act of kindness is a light, and lights together make the darkness tremble. Keanu bowed his head, tears falling silently. Thank you, he whispered. When he woke, the morning sun filled his room with golden light. The shadows had not vanished from the world, but something inside him had changed. He no longer feared them. He no longer doubted the path. He knew the warning had not been to frighten him, but to prepare him. He walked out into the day with quiet steps, carrying with him the truth that no threat, no betrayal, no fear could silence the strength born of kindness, humility, and resilience. And though the world still watched him, still whispered about him, Keanu Reeves lived each moment with a heart unshaken, a man who had faced the storm and chosen light,